the holiday season is upon us, I thought I'd make some big, soft gingerbread cookies. Now for this recipe, you need 3/4 cup of softened butter. So that's a stick and a half, 3/4 cup. You can get it out like an hour before you start making these, or if you're in a rush, you can always use the microwave. Just be careful you don't microwave them too quick so they don't become melty. So you need 3/4 cup of softened butter. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Now we need to sift together our dry ingredients. You need 2 1/4 cups of flour. Make sure you run it through your sifter. There's 1. Okay, that's 2 1/4 cups of sifted flour. And then we need to sift in 2 teaspoons of ground ginger. There's 1. Then we need to sift in a teaspoon of baking soda. And then 3/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. So there's half. And my 1/4. Now we need to sift in half a teaspoon of ground cloves. And 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now we need to cream together our butter. So make sure your butter's nice and soft. Knock it in there. Three-fourths the cup, which is 1 1/2 sticks. Then you need a cup of sugar. And beat these together. Beat these together. Start out at a low speed until they start to mix together. And then once they're mixed together, speed them up to a high speed. You want it to become light and fluffy, and at this point it is light and fluffy. As you can see, it is light and fluffy. At this point, we need to mix an egg in. It's also good to get out your egg and let it sit to warm temperature. It's not critical, but it does help a lot. Now that that's mixed in, we can add in a tablespoon of water. And 1/4 cup of molasses. And you can use an icing spatula to get all the molasses out. Okay, it's always good to stop it at a point and scrape down the sides a little bit, just to make sure it all mixes well. Same with the beater itself. It's really starting to smell like gingerbread cookies. My first time ever making gingerbread. I'm not cutting them into the little men, but they'll still be good regardless. Okay, now keep it on a low speed and gradually stir in the sifted dry ingredients, very gradually. And maybe one more time with your icing spatula. Just kind of push everything around. Okay. That looks pretty well mixed to me. Now the final step before baking is to take your dough, roll it into, it says walnut-sized balls, roll it in 2 tablespoons of sugar, and then place it on an ungreased cookie sheet. So try to make them all roughly the same size. Just repeat this process till you run out of dough. Alright, I got 14 total. You could easily get 15 or 20, or if you want bigger ones, you could go down to 10. But just remember, based on the size, you're going to have to vary your baking times a little. Alright, it said to flatten all these slightly. So I would just press them all down with a fork a little bit. And now we can get these in our oven to bake for 8 to 10 minutes. Alright, we've got our cookies. Make sure they're all about 2 inches apart or so. And we're going to bake them in our preheated oven at 350 degrees for 8 to 10 minutes. Now once you take them out, it says let them cool on the baking sheet for 5 minutes and then transfer them to a wire rack. So keep an eye on them. They bake quick, 8 to 10 minutes. Alright, it's been 8 minutes and my oven's pretty hot, so I'm sure they're done. They smell good. Yep, those look good. They look a lot like gingerbread cookies, because they are gingerbread cookies. So now we once again play the waiting game, but like before, it's quick. 5 minutes, and then we can move these to a wire rack. Now that these have been sitting out for 5 minutes, still on the cookie sheet, we can scoop them to a wire rack to finish cooling. Mine are definitely going to be chewy. So if you want them chewy, just do your minimum 8 minutes. If you want them more solid, you know, closer to 10, maybe a little more. Alright, I have one of the big soft gingerbread cookies. Good. It's really good. It's nice, fresh tasting, of course. If you make it from scratch, it's going to be. It's chewy. The spice is good, but not too strong. If you're a fan of gingerbread cookies whatsoever, definitely make them.